Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the Medium in the Middle. On this podcast, I share my journey as a developing psychic medium, as a Reiki master teacher, as an Akashic record practitioner, and anything else that's thrown my way. Join me every week. I release new episodes every Tuesday. Hello, Middlers. Welcome to episode 101. I feel like episode 100 was such a party. We were having a good time on Instagram, and then it was a really busy week with merch launching, and I attended the Banff Wellness Retreat and had so much fun, but I feel like I need to catch up on life, so I don't know how you're feeling, but it's been a kind of whirlwind energy recently. I am really excited for today's episode because I am back with a mediumship story. You guys have been requesting a mediumship story, and because Spirit has been pretty silent, I haven't had any until this weekend where we opened up big time. So I'm really excited to share this experience with you and share all the messages that came through and the reminders that were there around how Spirit always shows up. And I posted on Instagram that I was a little nervous before the reading, and I got a lot of DMs saying, Spirit always shows up. I know this, and it was really, really great. So in light of this mediumship episode, I wanted to pull a card this week from the Mediumship training deck. I've received this deck as a gift a while ago, and I haven't used it, to be honest, but this weekend has re-sparked my interest into mediumship and my development and just kind of working on things and playing in this realm again. So what are the odds that I pulled the card Nurturing Thyself? I'm going to read you the full card description. Honoring and taking care of your physical self should be a top priority when you're developing and using your mediumship abilities. Don't forget that you're the vessel for the reception and transmission of psychic energy. Nurturing yourself is not selfish, it's a necessity. Being a medium means living a life of service and giving to others. If you choose this card, then it's a timely reminder to ensure you don't forget yourself in this process. In this line of work, it's easy to forget to pay attention to your physical body, which can result in feeling tired, drained, or even moody. Remember that we're all made up of energy, and that energy is very precious and delicate and needs to be preserved and honored. Today, schedule some time to stop doing anything psychic. That includes even talking about a reading with anything related to it. Whether it's just for a day or a bit longer, it's important to get into the habit of taking time for yourself. It could be a message, meditation, or a walk in nature, a walk with Archie, whatever works for you. The point is to allow your body, mind, and spirit to absorb positive and healthy energy so that when you have to return to helping others, you'll feel healthy, strong, and revitalized. Taking quality time to be with your loved ones, friends, and pets that are here is equally important. You're a physical being and a spiritual being. Please honor both. Ooh, I like this card. This is a good reminder, especially after a massive retreat weekend. I'm one of the main facilitators of the weekend, so I worked the retreat all weekend. We do registration, then I presented 3 times, and just being there and in the energy and in real life, it's so nice. But yes, it is a lot of energy, and I need to recoup. And this weekend is my birthday, so I have a few days off for my birthday. I'm really excited. So I also wanted to pull a second card for those who listen to this that aren't into the mediumship side too much or the mediumship development side, or I just wanted to pull a second card. This is from the Kyle Gray, the Angel Guide Oracle deck. And again, how fitting, I pulled Learning Experience. The full card description. You have dedicated a lot of your time, effort, and energy to understanding yourself and the world, and have had many experiences really that have been great teachers. Even though not everything has been easy or perfect, there has been a positive in that you have come to understand yourself, your gifts, and your abilities better than ever. You are deeply connected to who you are, what you stand for, and what's important to you in your life. When this card appears for you, angels are acknowledging the challenge and obstacles you have surmounted recently. Although it may have been a difficult time for you, your faith and inner strength have increased. Know that this cloud has a silver lining and you will soon have moved beyond the feeling of being stuck or unsupported. Ooh, I feel like people needed to hear this card today. So whenever I'm shuffling the cards, whenever I'm looking at what do I need to pull for the episodes, I'm always asking, what do the listeners need to know? What do the podcast listeners need to know? Because it's a message for you guys, right? Although I resonate with them as well, I am asking for what does the collective need to know, or who is listening to this episode whenever you so listen to it. So that was a really good few cards today. I really liked that. And it goes with the theme of the podcast. Of course it does, which is going to be a recap of the Banff Wellness Retreat. And I have a lot to say, a lot to recap. It has been a year since we've done an in-person event. This one was bumped due to the pandemic. And it was really, really nice to be in person. So I want to tell a story and then I'll tell announcements. But it was an interesting weekend. So Friday I presented on Reiki and it was really fun. I was telling a lot of jokes, thinking I was a comedian. Saturday I presented on the Akashic Records, which was really interesting. That has a whole nother episode in itself because there was some really great feedback and some really great takeaways that I want to share with you. So I'm going to save that for a whole nother episode. And then Sunday, I presented on Mediumship and I did a group reading. And if you've been a longtime listener of the Medium in the Middle podcast, you know that last year I did a group reading at the Banff Wellness Retreat and I wanted 36 people in the reading. And I didn't hit that number. And I can't remember now if I hit 33 or 34 people. But I remember joking around being like, Spirit is sitting in 2 seats. So I hit that 36 number. So this weekend when the room was filling up and I was like, oh, last time I remember wanting 36 people. And this year I got 74 attendees. So I think because this event was on the Sunday and people got to see me present on the Friday and the Saturday, I had a lot of people join the event because it wasn't supposed to be that large. There's 2 events going on at the same time and you get to choose where you want to go. So I think I had a lot of people join and some presenters join to watch, but it was really, really incredible. This is the biggest group reading I've ever done. So that's what this episode is going to be on because Spirit showed up and it was amazing. And I love group readings because there's so many lessons and Spirit is just so intelligent with how they deliver information that it was really, really, really beautiful. A lot of tears on day 3. And I kind of warned everybody. I said, Friday I was really funny and I made you laugh. And, Saturday with the Akashic Records, I'm going to still maybe say a few jokes, but we're going to get a little more serious and put you to work. But then on Sunday, I'm going to make you cry. And I even had a tissue box out and I said, I'm thoughtful. Here are some tissues. But I wanted to say a story about synchronicities. So we had a basket giveaway at the retreat, and it was from this beautiful, beautiful human who was presenting on Saturday. So we decided to give the basket away during her presentation, and it just so happened that the winner was in her presentation because they could have been in the other room. So I announced the winner, and I said, congratulations. If you could come see me afterwards at the desk, we'll give you the basket, take a picture, all of these things. So when the winner came, she said, hey, I have a gift for you. And I was kind of confused and I said, no, I have a gift for you. You won the basket. She's like, yes, I know, but I also have a gift for you. And she said, hi, I'm one of your Reiki students from this past weekend. And you also did a Reiki session for me a week ago. And I was like, oh my God, hi. We're all in masks and it's a crazy weekend. My mind's here or there. So even though I said her name, it didn't all click. And she said, a week ago, we had a Reiki appointment before the Reiki course, and she said when we were working on my back pain, she said my back pain is gone. And I was like, oh, amazing. She's like, no, Steph, my back pain is gone. She's like, I've done everything for my back pain. She said, I have massages, I've done acupuncture, I've done everything possible for my back pain. You did that Reiki treatment for me, and then I did the Reiki course, and my back pain is gone. She said, it's incredible, I can't believe it. So I had to get you a gift, and then I found out last minute you were going to be here, and I had to bring you this. And I was like, oh my God, that's so amazing. And it was just a really beautiful moment because number 1, I got to meet one of my online Reiki students, which I love. And then number 2, it was like this beautiful thing of a Reiki miracle. And if you're one of my Reiki students, I talk about Reiki miracles all the time. And I said, oh my God, you got a Reiki miracle. And she said, yeah, I know. She's like, my back pain is gone. She's like, my life has changed. And it was amazing because in the heat of the weekend, it's really hard to kind of be present and have these beautiful moments because so much is going on. But this really called me back. And this really was an amazing moment where I was like, oh my God, you got a Reiki miracle. This is amazing. So she was the perfect person to win the basket. She was there at the retreat alone. She's like, I never win anything. And it was so nice. So Jamie, if you're listening, shout out to you and congratulations on winning the basket and having a Reiki miracle. It was a really, really special moment, I think, for both of us. And thank you for the beautiful gift. It was so sweet. So that was a really cool synchronicities. I was like, what are the odds that one of my Reiki students is here and they didn't even know I was going to be here until the last minute. So very, very cool. Going into announcements, merch is live. It launched last week. All of your orders are being shipped and delivered. I'm so excited. We have gone to the States, all over Canada, Bermuda, New Zealand. Holy moly. There's middler swag. There's medium in the middle sweaters and mugs and bags. So fun. So I will leave the link down below in the show notes. Also, the meeting in the middle in September happened. It was so fun. We had a bunch of students practicing mediumship, and it was amazing. We also had some mediums in there, which was also incredible. So they supported the group. It was so fun. So thank you if you attended the September meeting in the middle. I am still trying to organize the October meeting in the middle. Time is flying by, but I have heard that you guys want a money manifesting meeting. So I think that's going to be October's. Even though I wanted to do something spooky, a lot of DMs came in about the money manifesting from what I talked about a few weeks ago. And I really, really want to talk about that, especially going into kind of holiday season where everyone is always strapped for cash. So that will be coming. More information soon. But if you do want an appointment with me, Distance Reiki, Akashic Records, or Psych K, that is all available via distance. I do them all over the world, live over Zoom. So it's so fun. My sessions are held live. And that link will be down below in the show notes, themediuminthemiddle.com. I think that's all. Oh yeah, if you're in Banff, come see me in real life. I do in real life appointments for Reiki. I love meeting people. If you're in the area, come see me, but you can also book in real life appointments on my website as well. And those are all the announcements, so let's jump into the episode. And I'm excited to be sharing a mediumship episode. And I've been getting a lot of messages saying, can you do a mediumship episode again? Can you do a mediumship episode again? And I kind of had nothing to share because I told you guys my boundaries are strong and spirit hasn't been coming in. And if they have been coming in, it's not enough for an episode or it's not a crazy wild story to share with all of the listeners. But this week was a good one. And this was a good reminder about how big of an impact mediumship can have and how fun it can be and how smart spirit is. So I had a really, really fun time doing this. And I am very excited to bring you this story today. On the Sunday is when I presented on mediumship. And I have not done a group reading for about a year, which is crazy. And it was really interesting. I do a 2-hour session, and for the first hour, I kind of talk about mediumship. I talk about my journey. I talk about how it works. I talk about, you can be a believer, non-believer. It's all fine. But then in the second portion of the presentation, I do a group reading, and I had 74 people, which was amazing. And there was a lot of lessons here. So I'm going to start with the first lesson. So we took a little break before I did the mediumship reading, and I started to get some downloads. So I wrote them down, and I had about 3 people down on this piece of paper. And I was very, very confident with it. So I walked out into the audience. I said, okay, when I was meditating just now, I had some spirits come in. So I'm going to start there, and then we'll kind of go from there. So when I'm doing a group reading, I ask for spirit to come in on the side of the room where the person is. So for example, if they come in on my left side, that means it's for the left side of the room. If they come in on my right side, it's for the right side of the room. So it's kind of like it's someone in this quadrant that this is for. So I was very clear that I was looking for a husband named Jerry who died at age 63 with something of the throat, and it was for the person on the left side. And I walked up to the left side, being super confident, being like, whose husband's name was Jerry? And I got crickets. And I was like, people shouldn't really forget their husband's name, but all right, I'm just going to repeat this information. And everyone's like, no. I'm like, okay, on the right side of the room? No. Okay. I'm like, I'll go to my second piece of information. I have someone named Marta, and I think she might be your cousin. It's for a female. Nope. Crickets. I was like, okay. So I went to my next piece of information. I said, I have a Susanna, a Joanna, and there's a third name, but I can't figure it out, but there's this power of 3, and I feel like it's a sister. Nothing from the audience. And I was like, should I just leave? What's going on here? And then finally someone starts to tear up and she says, Susanna is my sister. And we go from there and kind of I start, but it was a very blunt reminder from Spirit that they were testing me. They gave me 3 blanks. And eventually all this information did fit, but at that first straight out the gate, it was radio silence from the audience. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we started with this lady. It was her sister, and the other 2 names ended up connecting to her as well, which was super interesting. And then we started bouncing from there. So I always say when things stop making sense for the person I'm talking to, it starts making sense for the next person. So we had a sister come through. We had a dad and a brother. We had a grandpa. We had another sister and a grandma. We had a dad. And it was really, really interesting as I was moving around the room and having all this information come through. What was more interesting was the lineup of 10 people that came to see me at the end of the reading. So I want to talk about that in a moment, but first I want to talk about, so I went through and I read for about 40 minutes. It was not that long of a reading, but it was a perfect amount in my opinion. And at the end, I was like, okay, again, on the left side of the room, I'm like, I still have another dad that I have to talk to before I leave. And it's for the left side of the room. I'm just going to start saying things and let me know if this resonates. So I start talking about this dad and how he either wore work boots, so he was a worker man, or there's something about his boots being very important. And he wants to remember that how he passed was not how he wanted to be remembered. He wants to be remembered as strong. He wants to be remembered as he was, because it really hurt his ego how he passed and how he's being remembered now. And it ended up hitting like 4 people on the right side. They're like, that's my dad, that's my dad, that's my dad, that's my dad. Everything I was saying about the passing, what the message was, what they wanted to say. And I said to those 4 women, I said, listen, I know I'm saying this as kind of a blanket statement, but it's making sense for all 4 of you in regards to your dad. And they were all lined up in a row, how they were seated. And it was interesting because I said, this is a message from your dad, but Spirit's being intelligent and they're making sure I hit 4 people right now instead of just 1. That's why they're saying these certain details that make sense to all 4 of you. You need to accept this as a message. And before I finished my talk afterwards, I said to the audience, I said, if I didn't look you directly in the eye today and give you a message from Spirit, but information made sense, things made sense for you, I need you to take it. I need you to accept it, because so many times in life we're like, I want a butterfly, and we get a butterfly as a sign. And then we say, okay, now I want 7 more butterflies to confirm the 1 butterfly that I received. And we don't always get those 7 more butterflies. We have to trust the 1 butterfly that we do get. So I said, if you need confirmation from someone, something, a medium, here I am standing on stage telling you to accept the signs that you get from Spirit. You're not going to get that confirmation out in life. You're not going to get the A-OKs going on, because we need to accept what we ask for as true. And it was really, really interesting. After the talk, I had 3 people come up and thank me for saying that, because they said, I receive messages all the time, but I constantly question them. I constantly wonder if it's true. But hearing you say that really makes me feel like my loved ones are around, because, yeah, you're right. Like, they're not going to come up and confirm these things. So before the reading started, I kind of went through how to be a sitter with the audience and to write things down and all of the things to do. And I also asked the audience to think of someone that they wanted to come in, and also think of something that that person could say that could make you know it was them. So something that you wanted them to say to confirm for you that it was grandpa. And I said, think about this during the break so that when I come back and I say that certain thing, you know it's them. So it was really, really beautiful. At the end of the session, people were going around giving notes to people who had received readings, being like, during your reading, I wrote down everything she said in case you missed it so that you could piece it together. So it was a beautiful group of people in there. But during one woman's reading, we ended up figuring out it was her sister, but at the time we thought it was the grandma. And they came up to me afterwards and they said, everything you said makes sense for our sister. And we were thinking it was our grandma, and I don't know why we didn't think of the sister. And again, this power of 3 women kept coming up for the whole entire group, which was really, really interesting. And the number 37 hit multiple ways for every group. So it's 37 and then 3 and 7. And it was really interesting for those ladies in particular. They were like 3 and 7. When you said that, they're like, there's 7 kids. There's 3 people younger than her and 3 people older than her. And then together there's 7. She's like, and there's synchronicities here, here, and here. So anyways, while I was talking to this woman who we thought was the grandma at the time, but we later found out it made more sense to be their sister, I said something about a barn. And I was talking about a barn, and I was like, it's a very typical barn, red and white. There's like red and white doors. Like, it's a typical barn that you would think of. So I don't know what the reference here is, if they're actually trying to tell me about the barn, if they're trying to tell me they lived on a farm, if they're trying to reference somewhere they grew up. But I'm seeing like the typical red and white. And they were kind of this hit for many people in the room. They're like, when you started to talk about this barn, everything started to make sense with all the other pieces of information. And at the end, I had this woman come up to me, and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, earlier when you asked us to ask our loved ones to say something, I asked my grandpa to have you say red and white door. And then you started talking about a red and white barn. She's like, what are the odds? And I didn't talk about any other colors, and it was so interesting. I was like, wow. I was like, you need to take that as confirmation. You need to take that as a message, because that is pretty clear. Like, if you asked for me to say red and white and I said red and white, I mean, that is pretty good confirmation that your grandpa was trying to come through and send you a little message, even though I didn't stare you in the eyes and say your grandpa is here. So she was like, yeah, that's what I thought. It was just incredible. Like, thank you so much. And I shared the piece of paper that I kind of scribbled down all this information on Instagram. So if you want to see how information comes through, go check it out. It's really interesting, even going back and reviewing it, because it's interesting when all of these people were coming back up to me and kind of piecing the information together. And you said this and you said this. I went to my sheet of paper and I was like, oh yes, I did write down throat beside Jeremy. And 37 is written down beside aunt when I was talking to your aunt. And, all of these things that make sense afterwards, because it is hard to digest in the moment all of the information. So this is my biggest takeaway when it comes to group readings. Yes, at the time of the group of 75 people, I only made eye contact with 5 or 6 people. But at the end, that lineup of people coming to tell me how the information made sense for them, that's where the magic is, I find. And I said this before I even started reading. I said, Spirit is intelligent. They're going to have me say things about your loved one that hits more than one person. Because I can't read 74 people in this room, they have to get their messages through. And then you have to accept them as your loved one, because it's really, really important to know that this is how the messages come through. But just seeing all these connections, the number 37 kept coming up. The number 3 women kept coming up. 3 sisters kept coming up. And a lot of people weren't claiming it during the reading. Like, I kept saying 37, 37, 37. Everyone's like, no, no, no. And I was like, they're really making me say 37. At the end, I had 3 people come and tell me, oh, when you were talking about my dad, he was actually born in 37. And I didn't realize it until the other woman said, oh, my dad was born in 37. And I was also 37 when he died. And all of these things where it's like, yes, like I was sitting there feeling kind of dumb, repeating the same information that no one is accepting. But then at the end, it all comes back and makes sense. But something important that I want to note, because most people who are listening to this podcast are probably more likely to be a sitter than a medium. But although there's also mediums here listening, being a sitter is hard. And I said that to the audience. I said, I'm throwing random pieces of information at you. We're playing blind charades here, and you're trying to figure out how 37 lands. It is hard. So just write it down and come back to it later, because it is hard to piece everything together in the heat of the moment. You're trying to think of mom and grandma and like, what about your old neighbor, you know? And all of these things are coming through. It's hard to kind of piece them together. So just write them down and come back to it. And that's why I have this lineup of people that come talk to me after group readings, because then they have the moment to piece things together. Then they have a moment to understand the message and confirm it was their loved ones and understand the evidence that was coming through for them. So it was really, really, really amazing afterwards that everything that I said that wasn't landing made sense. Even the Jerry name, the husband Jerry, it was actually a brother. She was like, oh my gosh, my brother's name is Jerry. All I could think about was my dad, but you spoke to my dad, and then this all made sense for my brother, and it was just so interesting. Even them having me say the name Susanna, that also hit for 3 people, because we had all the information that was said for that name hit for a Susanna, a Susie, and a Susan. So again, the names, you know, like how they connect to each other, all were very, very interesting and intelligent. And I talk about energy being intelligent a lot when I talk about Reiki, but also when it comes to mediumship, how these messages are delivered is so intelligent. How the words they get me to say in a group reading are so intelligent to hit as many people as possible. Spirit has this opportunity, this leak in the balloon, to say something, to connect with you, to confirm for you that they're around, that these messages are for you. So it was really, really beautiful. And if you're listening to this podcast, I said it to my audience and I'm going to say it to you now. If you need confirmation that that is a sign from your loved one, that feather, that song, that number, that thing in your house, I am confirming for you it is them, because we always need confirmation in life. And it's this hard thing that as adults, we are constantly looking for someone to just reassure us that it's true. And you are not always going to get that in life. So if you're listening to this podcast episode, I'm telling you that sign from your loved one is a sign from your loved one. Accept it. Take it as it is. Don't look for more. Don't expect it to come 4 more times before you believe it. It is a sign from our loved one, and they work so hard to get you that sign. We really have to accept it so that we know that they're around and we can live with these messages. And there was also some people that came up to me afterwards, you know, crying and thanking me for the closure that was given. There was one lady who couldn't make it to her dad's passing. She was on the way to the hospital, but he passed before she could get there, and he had kept talking about how he was fine with the passing. He was okay with how he passed, and she was like, it's interesting that he said that because I wasn't okay with that. So he was saying that like it was okay that she wasn't there and that she didn't make it, and, you know, not to hold her. She's like, I've always felt so guilty, and like hearing that has really, really, really allowed me to release a lot of that. So just seeing how powerful and life-changing these messages could be, it was beautiful. I again told the Josh story to start off, and I teared up because the Josh story gets me every time. If you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to episode 9. It is still such a moving story. Even though it happened so many years ago now, we are on year 4 or 5 of this mediumship journey I am on. Still developing medium, still working on it, still a forever student, still loving these experiences, still in awe every time Spirit comes through so strongly like it did this weekend. And everyone's DMs reminding me that Spirit always shows up is exactly what I needed. And I almost like trusted it too much, where I did little to no preparation for this reading because I knew Spirit always shows up. I'm like, I just need to be there and be open. And I almost was like kind of going through the motions of doing certain things because I said to myself, I need to prepare a little bit. Like I can't just be running through this weekend, presenting a bunch of times, facilitating all weekend, doing this, that, and the other thing, trying to visit with some presenters that I know who are in town. And then bam, it's 2:00 and I'm in a group reading. Like I need to do something here, Steph. So I meditated for about 30 seconds and, sat at home trying to listen to some peaceful music and then just jumped right in. But I do trust that Spirit will show up almost too strongly, where I didn't do much to prepare for this reading just because the weekend was so jam-packed. This was on the Sunday. It was the last event and there was a lot going on this weekend. So I also wanted this episode to be a reminder for you, if you are a developing medium, if you are just getting into it, a reminder that Spirit always does show up, especially when they're needed, especially when it's important. So don't worry. Know that they have your back and you are fully supported in this practice. And yeah, I wanted this message to be very clear. Spirit always has your back. They will show up, and take the signs that are given to you, take them as confirmation from your loved ones that they are trying to send you a signal that they are still around and they still are involved in your life. So this was a really beautiful story. I had a wonderful weekend, and I'm excited to bring you this mediumship story. I think the red and white door piece was what hit me the most, and I really appreciate that all those people came up and told me how everything landed with them. And it really does show the power of that divine intelligence, just spirit knowing what to get me to say. And even afterwards, I was thinking about it. I'm like, why was I saying 37 and 3 so much? Like, why? And yes, it was like the numbers and the ages and the years they were born and the amount of siblings. But I was just thinking to myself, like, I could have said any number, like 48, and it would have been a completely new message, or it wouldn't have landed at all, you know? So it's always super interesting how they deliver. So I was blown away and reminded of the power of spirit, and it was a really, really nice way to kind of kick me back into the mediumship train and, yeah, kind of spark that again within me. It's been a whole year since I've done a group reading, which is crazy to think of. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are an iTunes user, I would love and appreciate a rating and a review. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram. There will be a giveaway for merch this week, and I'm also announcing something very special for my birthday. I've been waiting to launch this, and I feel like my birthday is a great time. So follow along on Instagram if you don't already. All the links will be down below in the show notes. But thank you for listening. Thank you for buying merch if you already have. I see the shipments on their way to you, and I can't wait to see you receive it. When you do receive your merch, please tag me. I would love to see you in the Midler swag. But until next week, everybody, I will see you in your ears. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful week.